now from Nashville, Tennessee, it's time for another episode of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow, where all things related to your safety and security are discussed, detailed, and delivered to you. You may leave with a tip that saves you money or a tactic that saves your life. So here are your hosts, owner and founder of Defend Systems, Brink Fidler, and owner and operator of Herring Technology, Tom Herring.
Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow. So you guys know we talk about a plethora of topics on this show. However, they are all somehow related to your safety and security. These are trying times we are living in, and I guess throughout history there's probably been a lot of people that have said those exact same words, right? It is almost like it continues to repeat itself, and everybody thinks you're always worse off than you were before. Or how many times have you heard, well, back in my day? And I can't tell you how many times I heard that in law enforcement, right? When I was new, of somebody going, man, we used to, now you can't do anything. And now that's me. I'm going, golly, these guys can't do anything. You know, they're totally ripped apart and held accountable. But between the riots, the civil unrest, the pandemics, the, acts of Mother Nature, I mean, just here in Nashville, just this, in the last few months, we've had, a tornado blow through here and then east of Nashville and do tons of damage. Pandemic hit, and now we've had riots in downtown Nashville where they literally broke out windows of the courthouse, set it on fire. I have some very interesting pictures showing a Metro officer that jumped up on a police car to pull a guy off his roof who was dancing on the police car. They got to tussling on the roof of the police car, and two other guys tried to grab the officer's guns, and I've got pictures of them trying to grab his gun. That's a surefire way to get your butt shot is to go for a police officer's gun. That happened in Nashville, Tennessee, in broad daylight. And, holy crap. I mean, if they're willing to do that, I said on another episode, they shot up a patrol car that was on the back of a wrecker getting towed in. So there's a lot that society is throwing at us. And again, it's changed a lot of people's perspectives on firearm ownership and feeling vulnerable. And the people that always said, it won't happen to me or it won't happen in my neighborhood, bull, right? I mean, we just have talked about certain neighborhoods that feel like they're immune, and it's really the opposite. They're more targets. So really the point is the atmosphere is ripe for emergency situations that you could face, right? Your family.
You don't know. I mean, it's 2020.
Yeah, right? Oh.
If we can... it makes me go back to where I'll slap you in the next year. Go ahead and hit me then. Let's go. Let's go.
I'm ready to be in the next year.
Yeah.
Can we get a break?
Yeah. Well, what's going on in this world? I mean, it's, who knows?
What's not going on in this world?
Correct.
I saw a great meme that my sister posted that said, okay, July, you can come in, but just please sit down and be quiet and don't cause any trouble. Just sit there and good gracious. But there's a lot of situations you could find yourself in at any time, but really now, the idea of being better prepared to protect yourself and or survive whatever situation is really being put on the forefront of a lot more people's minds, right? I mean, without question. We talked previously about, of course, the run on the grocery stores and the pandemic and that whole thing. And,
lack of toilet paper.
Right. I oh my God, I don't even want, it started like.
Serious things.
Yeah, right. But, I mean, here you and I were sharing back channels information about where you could get food, yeah, and that's like who in the world thought in our lifetime you would have to figure stuff like that out and you'd go to the grocery stores and the shelves would be empty and, everything's closed and pandemics and the economy's going to crap and there's record high unemployment and people are stressed out. And, I hope I'm wrong, but I could just see an increase of active attacks as a result of, we already are seeing an increase in that, but just from a standpoint of you protecting your house, your home, your vehicle, your family, there's a lot of situations you can run into that we just really want to talk about. We don't want to give you specific advice on, you ought to do this or you should do that because, we're not here to do that. We can tell you maybe what we would do in certain situations. But there's a lot of things you could run into. For example, and this is one we've been talking about, if you find yourself faced with an angry mob, you're in your vehicle, you turn the corner, or even like you brought up, driving down the interstate, all of a sudden traffic's coming to a screeching halt because they're out in the middle of interstate protesting, you're stuck, right? I mean, and that's when my claustrophobia would kick in too, by the way, so, all of a sudden, if it's a peaceful protest, like we have seen here in Nashville, not the recent one, but in times past where they shut down the interstate for a few minutes and then they go on about their business. That's not the concern. But I've seen video recently of that thing happening on the interstate and that some of those people turning on the vehicles that are stopped on the interstate.
Correct.
And attacking them. So, Tom, let me ask you this. You're in that situation. At least for me, I think my response may differ slightly if my family's in the vehicle or they're not.
Absolutely. Yes, your response is going to be different. If you're by yourself, you kind of can be at more risk.
You're willing.
It's you and them.
Right.
At the other time, if your kids are in the car, your wife's in the car, you're now having to defend as well as yourself and for them. So
right.
Jumping and belling and running's not going to really be a great thing when your kids are all running different directions and amongst the traffic out on the side of the interstate. I mean, that's just kind of looks like our family vacation anyway. When everybody's trying to get to the restroom, but that's
Griswolds.
Yeah, and it's I think you have to stop and look at that. And again, we are not giving advice here legally or in any way, shape, form, or fashion. What would we do? And the biggest thing is our show is tips, tactics, and tools, and we're thinking out loud here. We're in troubled times and areas of that are clear as mud.
Right.
In what's legal, what's not legal. What do you do during these times? I mean, we're watching, looters with police watching.
Yeah.
So where's the law on that? They are going back with video footage prosecuting, but now it's personal to you. And these are things that the reason we're doing it with tips, tactics, and tools is so that you can think of it and at least have it in your mind, your plan. What are you going to do? What can you do?
Yeah.
I look at it, Brink, as you don't have a lot of choice if you're in the, on the interstate and you roll up and the cars in front of you have stopped. Now, you have a different choice if you're the front car.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Ease
on through.
What are you going to do? You've seen them try and block it. You've seen them, you've seen them ease through and hit, and then later they get the driver and charge him or her, and, are you in fear of your life then?
Yeah.
What are your legal grounds? And that's something you have to wrestle with.
Well, we're also getting off into territory of troubled waters, if you will, of mob mentality when it comes to prosecution. And mob mentality is starting to hijack the justice system a little bit. And there's certainly rushes to judgment based on the mob, right? And so will that translate over to you, Joe Civilian? Or me, Joe Civilian, right, driving down the road, and even if there's video, which I'm sure there will be because there's video everywhere now. That's why Tom's so successful, yeah. But, everybody's got a camera instantly in their hand, and if there's video of you doing whatever you're going to do to defend yourself,
customize.
Is it – that really didn't –
Sorry.
Yeah.
We're customizing our solutions.
Yeah, I was not ready to hear.
There we go. You keep this handy in your car for when you get trapped, and you turn on the music and you prepare.
Yeah. Tint your windows very dark. And then if you find yourself in the mob like this, then just barely crack your windows and blare this music.
Yeah, and don't worry about Guido. It's in the trunk.
That's right.
So
that's hilarious. But there is being, so you have to be cautious, but what the law says, and again, you need to know the law for your area. And unfortunately, a lot of the law is open for interpretation, but the general thing is you've got to be in imminent fear of serious bodily injury or death. Okay. So we talked about this off the air. If you, for example, are a carry permit holder, retired police officer, whatever, you're an armed citizen, and there's a guy across the street from you threatening you with a baseball bat, he's not really a threat to you. I mean, he's all the way across the street. There's nothing he can do unless he's really good at throwing that baseball bat. He's probably not going to be able to hurt you, right? And in law enforcement, we had what was called a 21-foot rule. And multiple studies have been done on this, but if somebody, even with a large blunt object, is within 21, or a knife, blade, whatever, are 21 feet of you, they can run that 21 feet, which is only 7 yards, and hurt you or kill you before you can get your firearm out and defend yourself.
That's incredible.
So typically, that's the line. And I say this all the time in training, or I ask this question to my audience all the time in training. What's faster, action or reaction? Action, obviously, is always faster, beats reaction every single time. So that's why that buffer is in there, and study after study has been done on it. But what, maybe to the untrained eye, that from somebody raising a baseball bat and taking a step towards you from 20 feet away to Joe Civilian may look like, well, he was 20 feet away. He couldn't have hit you, and then you got an uphill climb. And do we go back to the mob mentality? Well, we often say we'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6, but are those 12 going to succumb to the mob mentality of the rest of the jury pool? If not, I don't know. I just think there's a lot of things you need to think about, but at the end of the day, it's got to be your best judgment on what you fear is imminent serious bodily injury or death. Serious bodily injury is broken limbs, eyes gouged. Technically, a vascular restraint would be considered imminent serious bodily injury if they can, choke you out. I mean, that's a felony in Tennessee to choke somebody unconscious. I mean, and it should be, unless it obviously is in self-defense. But, these are all things that you just need to be prepared to at least think about. We called it scripting, right? When you just play out scenarios in your head, like you do at your house or deer camp or whatever. If this, what would I do? And you'll do it under stress. But that's really important to start doing right now, and to start thinking about having a plan, or what you may need to keep on you or in your vehicle or whatever, in your backpack, to deal with, any kind of situation, not just a firearm.
Yeah, and it's pretty obvious also if you're in your car and you're stopped, if someone's trying to open your doors, if someone's jumping up on your hood and, you have just glass between you and them and they're trying to penetrate that glass with anything, there's a decision to be made at that point in time. If they're just walking by, not doing anything, Yeah,
my decision's how many rounds are going down range.
Well, that's true. That's true. And,
that's me personally. If you're trying to breach my vehicle, my driver's side window, my windshield, passenger side, whatever, you're trying to get at me swinging a blunt object at my head, I'm gonna just do what I have to do to eliminate the threat. I mean, that's just me. That's maybe not for everybody, but that's based on my training and me, even as Joe Civilian, being able to articulate my fear of serious bodily injury or death. And again, I'd rather not hesitate and wait and see what may or may not happen. Or I mean, I've got video of some of the attacks on some of these business owners in Minneapolis and some other places that are absolutely horrific. Like, horrific. I mean, mobs just smashing their head and knocking them unconscious, and it's terrible.
Right, well, we had an attack in Wisconsin yesterday on a senator.
Right. Yep.
That's right.
Walked out just filming.
Yep.
And I want to bring up that have common sense too. If you're passing through a town or something like that and a protest happens out and they block the interstate, you had no awareness. You can't help that.
No.
But, we have people right now who have just lost their ever-loving mind of, there's going to be a protest downtown. Okay, I'm going to go down and film. I want to see it.
Right.
Okay, you just put yourself there. What was the reporter, whoever got shot by the rubber bullets, and it's like, don't put yourself in that position.
Yeah, well, I mean, when that happened, generally before law enforcement starts using overwhelming force to disperse a crowd, that crowd, even if they're reporters, have been given lawful orders to disperse. And if you refuse, then you're part of the problem too. But what do they say? Common sense ain't so common anymore.
Exactly.
Well, of course, everybody thinks they're a videographer now too, right? We all know that because, video's easier to do, and everybody's got a camera, and everybody's got a 4K camera. So they all want to go see, and the curiosity factor gets them, and then there's just double the amount of people downtown, and maybe only half of them are protesting. Well, if you crowd all the streets and you have all these problems, well, you're just delaying first responders' ability to get to the people that actually need it. You're making it hard for them to discern who are the good guys and who are not. If it's one big crowd, I mean, it could go a lot of ways.
Plus, in Seattle, the chop zone.
Please.
Oh, I mean, come on. You're taking over public property, and you're protected by it to where you literally had 3 shootings, and the police could not get to it. One resulted in a murder.
Yep.
And the police couldn't even go in to fill out a report. So what times are we in right now? Is this civil, do whatever you need to do at this point in time? I mean, if the police can't get in to investigate a murder.
Yeah. Can you imagine being in there inside that zone, right? And you're having to fend for yourself. I mean, I'd be fending all right. I mean, I've got video. I'm not sure if we can post it because I'm not sure who the source is, but I do have video of a concealed carry person being attacked by some Antifa members. One swinging a skateboard at his head, hitting him with a skateboard. Another one pulls out a knife and says, "I'm going to effing kill you." And this dude breaks out his gun and drops him. And it's fantastic. And I'm sorry, but I mean, you're hitting me in the head with a blunt object and pulling a knife on me. I mean, there would be fewer Antifa attacks if a few more of those kept happening, right? If they're like,
we need more videos like that.
Yeah, where's mainstream media for that?
Holy crap! Like, we might need to think twice about this, guys, because
Well, that's the thing is that as more people arm up, I mean, it's just going to kind of self-govern in a way.
Yeah. Well, you have less motivated police officers, and I get it. I mean, they're friends of mine. They're some of my employees. You're living in a town and a time where, they're already stretched super thin, right? I mean, they put them on 12-hour shifts with no days off, right? And they just did that to them during the tornado. So imagine what that does to your mentality. And then you've got people shooting up police cars, people attacking officers, and all this mob mentality. And do you think the officers now want to come to work and be proactive?
Morale's got to be at an all-time low.
Right. No, they don't want to. They don't want to come to work and go chase bad guys, which is what they got in it to do, and help people. When you've got a district attorney who's going to prosecute you for shooting a guy with a gun in his hand, I mean, how motivating is that as a police officer?
Have you seen the Georgia Police Federation? I think it's what it's called. They're coming to the defense of some of the police officers down there.
Yeah.
Because the mayor obviously signaled to the police department that we don't have your back.
Yeah, and so what's going to happen, right? If the police are almost 99.9% reactive, right? Right now they're not. I mean, they're both reactive and proactive. But you take the proactive element away, what do you think is going to happen to crime, right? Because then they just become glorified report takers. They're not out stopping cars. They're not out doing field interviews. They're not out doing Terry stops. They're not doing walkthroughs in the tough areas and doing proactive work. Now they're strictly doing reactive work. What do you think is going to happen? And folks, if you don't think it can happen in your neighborhood because of where you live, I'm here to tell you you're wrong. I mean, there is no one that is immune from any of this stuff. I talk about that all the time with active shooters. Find me an organization type who hasn't had one. I mean, they happen everywhere. Banks, granite shops, old folks' homes. I mean, is that politically correct? I don't think it is.
So you're saying that it's no longer reserved for the cities?
Oh, no. I think it can happen anywhere. I think it's I think it's a population density thing too, because they get more coverage and they get more. I don't know that I'd see them going to, Leaper's Fork and, whatever. And then boys down there wouldn't take too. I'm not sure you'd come back from down there if you did.
Yeah, Leaper's changing a little bit though.
Yeah,
some running through, but
I just don't. I don't know. I think it could be anywhere, but I think you need to be prepared. Like Tom said, even if you're traveling out of town and you roll upon it, you didn't know anything about it. Okay, have a plan to deal with it. Talk to your family about it. What are you going to do? Is there an opportunity to evade, which is the E in defend we talked about in past shows on our active shooter curriculum, the deter or the deny in your acronym, Tom, either one, really apply here too, right? Do your research, be smart. If you say, hey, let's go downtown or let's do this, well, do some research before you do and make sure there's not something planned. And let's avoid the situation if we can to begin with. But if you can't, your first choice is to get away from the situation, right? Not engage somebody. And so are you on an interstate with a grass median? Or are you on an interstate with a pretty decent shoulder? Or are you downtown boxed in, right? Are you on a bridge or
a loop around a big city?
Right.
That's where it can spill over and go out from there. Yes, and one of the great things you're talking about, do your research. That's a great thing with Antifa, faux Tifa, no Tifa, whatever we want to Tifa this week.
all of the above.
Yeah, it's their mode of communication generally is through social media. Thank goodness they do not have a good channel of communication, which makes them predictable of knowing what's coming. I'm I start laughing. Yesterday's report started coming out. They're gonna hit the Lincoln statue in Washington on Thursday night at 7:00.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm like,
we'll see you there. With a whole bunch of stuff.
It's like the little kid at school that stands behind the teacher going, you know what, you say it again, I'll bust you up, blah, blah, blah. The teacher, and then the teacher moves out, like, oh, where are you going? Hold on, hold on, protect me. And that's kind of what I'm seeing. And their communication is what is aiding in the lawful's benefit right now.
Sure, certainly.
Apparently they're going to Sturgis.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I wish they would.
They're supposed to be going.
Oh, please.
Well, that may be where the end starts.
Yeah. Hey.
The beginning of the end is Sturgis.
Yeah. Now that would be worth getting within at least a mile and having the drone and filming it.
That's what I'm saying. That's a pay-per-view event.
Forget what I just said. I want to go film that.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
We could rent a helicopter.
Exactly.
Right? Get some coverage.
Stay far back.
Yeah. Drop some gas out the door. Fly over. What? Sorry.
I think they'll be able to handle the situation wonderfully.
Yeah.
So I think law enforcement will step aside and let them handle the situation. I know I would. You talk about popcorn cameras. I'd be a popcorn cop, bro, sitting back over there with my popcorn just watching.
You got to wonder if eventually you're going to start seeing people that'll come by the police and start helping defend the police.
I've seen it. We got video of a crowd that turned on an officer who got separated from the group.
That's right.
And another group of them moved in to protect him. It's like, that's not what we're just not. They get that. There's some great video out there. Y'all know who John Jones is? John Bones Jones, UFC fighter. There's video of him out there going up and taking Antifa's like spray pan. Like these little white dudes are spray painting Black Lives Matter, and he's like, "Give me the paint." Walks over there and just sticks his hand out. Because otherwise, a lot of people know who that dude is, and you're not going to tell him no. He's going to beat you to a pulp. And he started taking it from him like you were taking candy from your kids, man. It was awesome. So there have been some of that, but the problem is we get back to mob mentality and it gets infectious. And it's can you if a mob of 10 people turn on you and start to assault you, well, that's serious bodily injury or death, bro. And I know what's going to happen if they come at me with 10 people. I'm sorry. I'm just we're gonna level the playing field and level a few other things too. But again, that's not for everybody. Everybody's not a carry permit holder. So
yeah, I mean, for a layman scenario, you got 10 people that are kicking and punching on you. What do? Just curl up and wait for it to be over? Or?
No, that's serious bodily injury or death. I mean, I don't know
if you're not carrying,
yeah, in that case, just cover your head.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's all you can. I mean, that's.
You can't fight. I mean, you get to fight back, and then it just intensifies, right?
My father always told me, he says, pick out one guy and just go after him. That happens.
Yeah. But unfortunately, with the mob mentality, and we're talking about mob as in mass numbers, not the Godfather mob.
Right.
But anyway, that's.
What are you talking about?
You have to, they have no room in their mind for reason to enter.
Right.
They're not thinking is that them being the mob.
It's a frenzy.
Correct. So what's going to happen to the ones that are just joining in? They haven't thought through their attack plan. And I see it all the time. These little kids that were screaming in the grocery store, 15 years ago, kicking and screaming, I want that, and throwing stuff off the shelves, and mom's going, just settle down, we'll get it when we get home. Well, that's who's standing out in front of these cars these days. Those are those that haven't thought through the ramifications of what happens.
Of being a spoiled little brat.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so they decide, I'm blocking the road. Mm-hmm. And this car up front, the front car, who I said might have to make a decision on what to do, they're standing out there just as peaceful as can be with their sign. They have no intent to do harm to anyone. But then all of a sudden somebody starts attacking from the side. Not them. Another one from the group. Well, that person fears for their life. What are they going to do? They're going to hit the gas.
Right.
Now,
Instinctively.
Correct.
Yep.
And now you who are standing there, you put yourself in the middle of a roadway.
Yep.
Even though it was as peaceful and as meaningful as could be.
It's back to personal responsibility.
Exactly. And
that's
now,
gone out the window in this day and age.
Yeah, and you know what we call them? Regardless of what side of the law it's on, they're a victim.
Oh, I thought you were going to say a speed bump, but
well, that too. That's unfortunately they just they were the result.
Yeah,
that's
based on their choice.
Correct. So that's where we're not thinking through on as far as the protester side.
Yeah,
and there are peaceful protests that have been wonderful, and I mean here local, you've got. Pastor Lowe from Bethel Outreach Services and Steve Berger from Grace Chapel.
Yep.
And I know for the past few Sundays, and for 7 Sundays in a row, they're meeting downtown and doing a prayer march. They're not blocking anything. They're trying to bring it together.
Yep.
De-escalate, which is what is needed. And, I want to focus on some of that as well a little bit, as opposed to just all out war.
Let's stop being so emotional about stuff, guys. If you have an opportunity to express how you feel or think about something, do it in a loving way, and understand the other side may not agree. I mean, that's okay.
You can't do that anymore, Jim.
You can't.
Well, no, it's I don't want to name names or get too personal, but I have a friend who had a friend want to ruin a 19-year friendship because of something that was posted on Facebook, or that they like something. I liked
the post. That was my story.
So, I mean, where are we, y'all? Like, but we're divided, and it's just we need unification, and the prayer marches are a great way to do that. And no matter which side of the aisle you sit on, just understand that everybody doesn't think like you. But that doesn't mean we need to have a shouting match about it. I mean, why can't we just go on about it and live our lives instead of, you inflicting whatever it is upon me that, Tom and his mask.
Is unity to that extent even hilarious. Possible?
Yeah. You wear a mask. I don't wear a mask.
Hold on. Don't put it down yet. I got to get a picture of that while we're, that's fantastic. Yes. Tom with his mask. So, So is it possible? Absolutely, it's possible. But there's a force at work that doesn't want it to be possible, right? There's a certain element of society in the world that wants to pour gas on the fire, right? Mm-hmm. And divide us and divide and conquer, right? And they're Antifa, they're people that hate this country, whether they're in this country or other places, they're just doing anything they can to make it worse.
It's an opportunity. It's a gateway. Are there racial issues within our country? Absolutely.
Sure.
Do they need to be addressed? Absolutely.
Sure, absolutely.
But other groups have hijacked this. We've blown through that, and we're to anti-American right now. That's where this lies. And it's such a shame because, as we said earlier, we had a chance for unity and to get some of this, worked out and try and understand each other and go and we just, we blew through that like crazy, and we're at the far end of the spectrum at this point.
Well, right, we did have a unifying moment, and those on the side that want to see chaos and anarchy saw an opportunity to drive a wedge in that, because can you imagine from their standpoint of how horrific that would be had we
come together?
Yes. I mean, when that's absolutely not what they want. And so it was an opportunity to dump gas on that fire, and, here we are. And yes, it's been hijacked by a bunch of little idiot Antifa, whatever. Of course, Black Lives Matter as an organization is a fundraising arm for the Democrat Party. I mean, if you look it up, I mean, it's that's what it is. The Black Lives Matter movement, absolutely, but good points have been brought up. All lives matter. All Black lives matter. And so when you've got people getting mowed down in Chicago over the weekend, you don't hear a word about it from some of these activists, when it's like every one of these lives matter. All Black lives matter. All white lives matter. We can't just focus on the ones that, I mean, yes, the ones are bad when it's a white cop, of course, right, or whatever. But, every single life matters. We've hit on this before. Skin color, the definition of racism, like you brought this up earlier, not on the show, but is if you treat somebody differently because of the color of their skin, right? I see people. We're all made in the image of God, period. And if you let that seep in, but do you think people are born racist? Hell no, they're not. It's a learned behavior, And so we need a generational break in some of that, and we need to fix some of that. Absolutely, there shouldn't be any. But we've got to do it together instead of being split apart. I mean, the only way to really do it is going to be to come together. And the further apart we go, the harder it's going to be to do that and fix that problem.
And the only way that happens, and I listened to Steve Berger this past Sunday, and he was, discussing the same thing. The only way that's going to happen is to sit down and talk. You're not going to scream it into each other. You're not going to beat it into each other. We're not going to destroy anything into each other. Is sit down and have conversation. We have to understand how the black community feels. I mean, we do. That's coming from me. We do. And for them to be able to express that, us understand it. And it goes both ways. You have to have the truth to get to it. And I think that's what so much of this right now is there's not truth and logic being discussed.
Amen.
It just goes straight past into escalation from both sides.
Because nobody knows what the truth is.
Correct.
I've been saying this since the beginning of the corona outbreak. Well, the numbers are this. Well, the numbers are this. We should wear a mask. Well, it says you shouldn't. We don't know what the truth is. We don't know what the facts are. Well, science. Well, science changes on a weekly basis.
Yeah. We hear that
the scientists and the doctors say this. Well, okay, that group does, but this group says differently. In the conversation with my pal, who I was telling you about earlier, he brought up all the different numbers that were going on. I said, dude, for your group of numbers that you think are, quote, facts, I can Google and find the facts that counter your argument at any given moment. Okay.
For those of y'all that can't see Jim right now, he was doing air quotes when he did facts.
Yes.
It's tough to see in radio, and I'm not sure if the camera picked it up. But
that's the thing, is understanding that we don't know what the truth is. If you want to get biblical about it, even back in Jesus' time, what was the reason why he came? Can you answer that? Do you know why? He says it right to Pontius Pilate before he's led to his crucifixion.
To save the world is why he was led
to
here.
bear witness to the truth. I have come to bear witness to the truth.
Show.
And do we know what Pontius Pilate said in response?
I know you're testing my Sunday school.
He almost, in a very mocking fashion, you can almost hear him go, Psh, what is truth? They didn't know what it was back then either.
No.
Sounds familiar to today.
Exactly.
Fake news.
We think we're so far ahead of ourselves and so civilized, but are we really?
Yeah.
No. Human nature is one thing that doesn't change, right?
The mind.
Well, it's, again, back to, we are in times that feel very interesting.
They are very interesting.
to say the least. Yeah, I mean,
They're
there's
exciting, aren't they?
There's no shortage of material. I don't really get shocked much anymore. But just back to what are we all about on tips, tactics, and tools, and it's those things. So have a plan. Try and avoid, even if it'd be cool to see the protests, I get it. Try and avoid the cool factor and use the smart factor. Let's let common sense be a little bit more common. And talk to your family about having a plan. Should you find yourself in a situation, whatever that is, that may be different for everybody, whether you're carrying or whether you're not, but have a plan. I mean, you have to talk about it. Don't stick your head in the sand and say it won't happen here or I'll never run into that. Just be prepared as well as you can be prepared. And that level is different for everybody also. I mean, some are more prepared than others.
Yeah. At Brink, as you said, common sense isn't so common anymore. I always like to say common sense isn't a flower that grows in everybody's garden. It's
that's a Mississippi coming out of you if I've ever heard it.
Well, the other day, I'm actually on Vietnam Veterans Parkway, and traffic's kind of backed up. And this goes to the...
You were looking for protesters, weren't you?
Yeah, I was protesting the umpire at my kid's baseball game. But other than that, so I'm driving back, traffic starts backing up. And the accident's not far in front of me. I can kind of tell, and because you can see the smoke coming from a car. And so it's obviously on fire. And as I get closer, the car's over on the shoulder. So a few people have pulled over to assist. One guy's running with a fire extinguisher down to the car. And flames are coming out from underneath it. And I can see this in front of me. It's not a protest. But I'm still stuck. Yeah. I can't go frontwards. I can't go backwards. You know why? Because the car that was right beside the car that's on fire is stopped watching.
Yep.
They haven't gotten out to go help and block traffic. They're watching.
Were they holding their phone up, filming it?
Absolutely, they were filming. And I'm sitting here going, okay, hey, genius. I don't want to call him a negative name. So, hey, genius, well, if that car blows up, you're sitting about 6 feet from it.
Make sure you get it on video. It'll go viral of your death.
And me too. Yeah. So I'm about to rear end all of you to get shoved through and past, and everyone else did the same thing. They slowed down while this car is in flames that, could explode. But I'm like, as soon as I get close enough, I floor it to zoom by and hope it doesn't explode, but that is our society's mentality now. I want to stop and watch. And it's like,
it's a sensationalism.
Move on.
Well, people crave, the whole, it's like watching a train wreck, right? You don't want to turn away, right? You're like, oh my gosh, but did I really see that? We've become such a sensationalism society because we get sensationalism poured out on us on our phones and our social media, and so now I think our brains just crave it. I mean, and so it overrides a lot of common sense that car's on fire. And by the way, I have seen them blow up, so you may not want to do that.
Yeah,
we live in a crisis culture. People thrive on crisis.
Yep.
Panic. This too shall pass, I believe.
Certainly.
And it's not something that hasn't happened before in history. We could take solace and peace in knowing that it's all part of a plan.
Yep.
And just move forward with it. It's if you look again, I don't know why I'm becoming the biblical guy on the show.
So tune in Sunday at 9 for Pastor Jim.
You know what I mean?
I'm going to pass a plate here in a minute.
It's supposed to get pretty bad before Christ comes back. I mean, if we think this is bad, we don't know what bad is. So.
True that. Bad. Yeah. Well, in the meantime, be personally responsible for your own safety and security. Don't count on somebody else. Don't count on the police to provide it or be there. Don't count on your gated neighborhood or your one security light or your German Shepherd or whatever. Take ownership of your safety and security. By all means, if either Tom or I can help you, then by all means reach out. If you got questions, comments, concerns, want to learn more about anything we do, products, whatever, please reach out. You can always find us on Facebook and Twitter or at tipstacticstools.com.
I'm out.